Hello, and welcome to Perspectives on Neurodiversity, a podcast dedicated to challenging myths and assumptions about neurodiverse life. I am your host, Christopher Scott Wyatt, speaking as the Autistic Me. It is often said that autistics are introverted and self-aware, but I believe that we are extremely good at seeing patterns and recognizing solutions that escape other people. In fact, we're very good at hyper-focusing and solving problems. Today, we are going to be talking with Amit Chintan Ramlall, his father, Dr. Kumar Ramlall, and we're discussing the Chintan Project, which empowers businesses to discover their larger purpose, draw strength from the challenges they face, and leverage their unique offerings to impact the world. Dr. Kumar Ramlall, you are an MD.
That's correct, Christopher. I started off as a physician, and over the time as a physician, worked my way from being a general practitioner to emerge doc to now a specialist physician in allergy and pulmonary. But I got some of my most important healthcare lessons when I realized that my wife and I couldn't get a kid, and so the challenges of fertility, then the challenge during the pregnancy of a baby that might not survive to be born, and Amit had some health challenges early on, and like physical health challenges before we realized that there were developmental difficulties. And I think I learned more about medicine and healing and being healed through that process than I did as a practicing doctor for many years by that point.
And we are joined also with Amit Chintan Ramlall. And your name has special meaning. Amit means infinite and Chintan means thinking. So infinite thinking. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Christopher. Your guests will hear my dad's voice and this strange tapping sound. I had autism, and I speak using this card.
So we have assisted communication, and many autistics use devices. A common one is the Dynavox. There are other variations that work on iPads and other tablets. And in this case, we're using a physical card, which has symbols and alphabet on it. This is not uncommon. I also know that before we went on the air, Amit and I did exchange some words. So it is not that he is nonverbal, but that it's more comfortable and quicker to do the assisted speaking. Is that a good understanding of his situation?
Correct, Christopher. For my consultation work with clients or presentations, for instance, I find that it is easier to use this card. I am also practicing speaking because I think that is a worthy goal for me. Not quite there yet, but I can already speak for day-to-day life.
Amit, if I may ask, I was a frank breech birth. I had a lot of physical challenges and was in NICU.
Yep, neonatal intensive care.
Yeah. So for the first few months of my life, because I was the frank breech, I also had a left frontal lobe incursion. You had physical challenges too. How have you dealt with those physical challenges and the autism?
I have invested a lot of time thinking. Christopher, I remember thinking before I was born, as I had physical pain from a kidney that had a problem. I remember thinking that there must be a reason. I didn't know what that reason was, but I knew there must be a reason. I also calculated that if I were here, meaning existing, that there must be a reason for me too, for me, and a reason for my challenges.
Did you have surgeries and medical procedures early in life?
I did. I had major surgery at 4 days old. And it turns out that I was not fully anesthetized. So I learned how to disassociate. That skill has been incredibly useful to me over the years.
Your father is a doctor. Your mother has a PhD as well,
Yeah, my wife is an organic chemist.
an organic chemist. And yet, even having educated parents and access to good health care, things still went wrong.
Yet, Christopher, in the moment, I would have wished that it might be different. But that physical pain and the challenges I had became key to what I help my clients do today. I help them understand the purpose of challenge, how to turn lemons into lemonade, or as I have said, help them make hay while it rains. I dare say, through personal experience, I am an expert at leveraging challenge. So too are you, Christopher. Take a moment to think of your accomplishments over your life, not just professionally, but with your family, with your community, with the service you provide with this podcast. I know you have said that you tried to live and make your mark independent of autism, and that you now speak as the autistic me. This is part of the whole you. Sure, it might be wrapping, but just like a package, there is packaging. And too often, I think, we make the popular representation that the packaging doesn't matter. I would argue that the packaging is part of the package. It is part of your unique gift. It is part to be used, part to be leveraged in your difference in the world. The whole of you, Christopher, not the part minus autism or minus the palsy you had as a young child.
Do you look back on your experiences now that you're a young man and look at them as a strength, or do you sometimes, I don't want to say bitter, but do you sometimes wish it had been different, or do you just embrace that this is where you are now?
I think, Christopher, that despite the label, despite the impression that so many have when one has challenges with autism, that we are robotic. We are humans too. And I have moments like every other wishing that it might have been different. I also have moments when I see the perfection as it is. I have moments that bring tears to my eyes because if I had a magic wand and could change those things about my life, I don't know how better I would have designed it. I don't know how I would have done what I have. I don't know how I would have learned what I have if I didn't have those challenges. There is what I call, though, the animal part of me, the part that's other than angel, other than angel. and and that part does have moments when I experience fear and sadness and shame and guilt and grief, like each other of us blessed to be human.
For those listening to the podcast, Amit is mouthing the words and typing, and his father is reading to us. I don't want you to misunderstand what you're hearing because I can see Amit's mouth moving and I can see him giving the words, and then I hear his father saying them. So it's almost like the words are out of sync with the dubbing on television. But Amit is saying the words in his way, and I can see his mouth moving. I can see his hands moving. And then we hear Dr. Ramlall saying the words since we don't have a device. So I do want to clarify that for those who, I think many of us are rightly skeptical of some forms of assisted communication, facilitated communication in particular. Assisted communication, though, is valid and has been tested where the individual, those with nonverbal autism, those with other conditions, obviously do and can communicate through words. It's just through typing in this case. And again, Amit is mouthing the words. I can tell what the words are, and then I hear them because he's typing them. And I'm also reading the captioning as well to follow along. This is important because autistics and those with other verbal challenges. I have a dear friend who had throat cancer and is now unable to speak. Those who communicate through alternative means have every right to a voice and to be heard. And so that's one reason that I think this is a fantastic experience for the audience, is understanding that autistics, no matter how we communicate, people with other injuries, no matter how they communicate or other differences, communicating is a human right.
Christopher, thank you for explaining that and more eloquently.
I don't know about eloquence.
Stephen Hawking made quite a mark on this world as a theoretical physicist, thinker, cosmologist, human. And for much of his difference, he communicated through technology. On the other hand, I'm not ignorant to the doubt that is inherent in any form of assisted communication. So I have been working diligently, the mouthing, the lip movements, the physical stigmata of speech that you see have taken years of work and thousands of hours of practice. I invest in thinking. I invest in learning. And I, too, have been investing, continue to invest in being able to independently speak. Is that right? Is that wrong? That I might not get credit if I don't? I could stand here and debate, and I may yet win. But I would rather this be a dialectic where each of us and your audience too might grow as a result of this conversation we are having. I'm grateful that you are giving me voice or room to express my voice. And as you well know, there are others who will not and do not. You know that well.
I see your brow furrowing and I see the expressions on your face. I take it that this is sometimes frustrating for you. And I see you nodding and I see you communicating with your face. And it's a shame that we are mostly on a podcast, but I really want to describe what I see for those who are listening in their cars or while they're at the gym or not having the advantage of the video. When you are communicating, like when you said dialectic, and your father asked for verification because you're going very rapidly as you type along and you're looking at each other and he's not always looking at what you're typing as he's trying to read your face. This is a very close relationship, but you are doing the communicating and you are sometimes getting frustrated. What is that like, not always being able to express yourself or to get the words out in a way that your father or maybe your mother or whoever is helping you? What is that frustration like?
You have a partner, and you likely have had at least one moment when you thought that she didn't get you, didn't understand you. Perhaps but one, Christopher. And can you, for a moment, imagine what it is like to have a fight with your dad or mom when you need this hard and their help to express your anger. That's not fun. If there is ever an incentive, an extrinsic motivator to help get you to want to speak independently, it's so I can debate, converse, and yes, fight with people in my own voice. So frustrating? Absolutely.
I can imagine the need to have that mediated communication can be frustrating. Yes, and thankfully you're both smiling and laughing. But I can understand how that must create a barrier to having the dialogue you would sometimes want. May I move on to what you do now with your skills as a polymath?
Absolutely.
The Chintan Project is your middle name, Chintan, and that would be thinking, correct? That is the
Yes.
Sanskrit for thinking.
Yes. Yeah.
What is it that you bring as a autistic polymath to consulting?
My first hunger was, frankly, to help myself navigate this maze of developmental delay, of physical delay, of autism. And so my first studies were around, I should step back. I learned to read through the work of the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential, IAHP. And that changed my life. I have studied over 14,000 non-fiction books by some of the greatest thinkers who have ever lived. I did this so I could initially help myself to learn, how do we humans think? How do we solve problems? And one major initial problem for me to solve was this issue of human awareness, even, and human achievement. So when I studied, I was looking for nuggets to help me. I had a mentor early on named Bill Bartman, and he was a business teacher, and he let my parents bring a little autistic kid into the classes where he was teaching. And I learned from him that business was a lever to move the world, to make change. I learned that if I wanted to move the world, that business was one lever I could use. My parents had already taught me another lever: education, learning, thinking. So I combined these two and started writing using a card just like this. Then, when people found out about it, they started asking about my writing. Then we started selling the writing. Then we started using the writing in consultations. So I evolved as what I call a human behavior advisor. Advisor is carefully chosen because I don't want you and your business to be my vision. I want it to be yours. After we had done this business advisory work for clients around the world, it became clear that there was another missing level. How do these businesses work together to help sometimes the same client? That led to the next phase of my journey, which is acquiring companies that do help business owners and executives so that we can together serve these clients and grow as a result. So, in short, for that long answer, I help business owners and executives solve the soft problems, the people problems that occur at the level above HR, above human resources. And remember, Christopher, just as I said that people with autism are people too, business owners are people too. They have the same challenges as everyone else, just a few others, like partnership problems, dealing with teams, alignment, family-owned businesses and the squabbles therein. So they have problems within themselves, just as we all do. And then they have problems in how they relate. I leverage my learning, my years of observing humans, thousands of hours observing humans, when people acted as though, because I couldn't speak, I either didn't exist or didn't understand. Sure, that hurt me then, but I became an astute observer of us humans. And I leverage all of that and my studies in the work we do with our clients.
As an autistic, I find that I have to analyze people in social situations. I have used the works of Paul Ekman and others who have worked on body language, micro expressions, vocal tone to understand how people interact. Because for me, it is very difficult to understand some conversational norms, some social norms. So I find that I have to observe. I know that anthropologists, I believe Don Prince Hughes, who is autistic and has written about this, it's almost an anthropological existence as an autistic. I'm watching other people to understand what humans do. And I noticed you use the word humans as if, well, they're this species and we are studying them so we can understand them. Am I unfair in saying that you are doing the same, that you are observing and trying to study humans to understand how they interact effectively?
I think in some ways it would be wise of all humans to learn to hone the skill of being themselves and being a fly on the wall. This ability that you and I and others have cultivated as, frankly, survival tools for us are part of the gift. Haven't you gotten into trouble with a friend, maybe even lose a friend because you could tell that their partner was a jerk before they could?
Sometimes I say things I should not say, or I observe things I should not observe, whether it's in workplaces or social organizations. The Chintan Project, what you do then is you bring this observational skill and analysis that you do. As we said, you have two highly educated parents. You yourself are self-educated. You're a polymath who is self-educated. But you bring that knowledge that you have amassed through your passion for learning about people and interactions, and you then apply it to nonprofits, businesses, and other organizations looking to connect.
Typically, for-profit businesses, for whatever reason, we have not built a non-profit business ourselves. But yeah, I apply this to help them. And so often I help by asking questions, sometimes questions that they have not thought of before. And often, Christopher, it's asking questions that they were too afraid to ask. Before our call today, I was on a call with someone who is considering our services. And I asked who were their competitors, what challenges were they facing? And it was almost as though they were blind to those. Running a business, I can tell you, it is easy to be blind to the challenges. It is easy to be blind to the real obstacle that's in the way. It's even easy, Christopher, to be willfully blind to those challenges. We all are. They are just exaggerated in business because of the scale. And so often we have employees who are counting on us that they might feed their families next month. Being an employer is a sacred duty, I would argue. And sometimes I find myself reminding my clients to know the value in their people.
You study systems, companies are systems, organizations are systems. And yet, if I might ask, did you ever attend a public school? Did you ever attend normal social situations? Or did they reject you? And did the systems we have reject you, and yet you study systems?
I had a fun experience or two. Might I share? On the first day of the first daycare, my parents tried for me to help me socialize because that is what good parents do. I was locked in a dark room alone to help me settle. Fast forward the movie. In the daycare, that, or actually preschool, that my parents tried for me for the same reason, thinking that they were robbing me of some social good. I had the privilege of being kicked out because I was biting other students. I understand I had no right to bite them. And I understand that other parents wouldn't want their little angels bitten at school. That is not part of the social contract. Yet I did. And after a few meetings, when my parents were called in and instructed to teach me to not bite, they agreed that I could leave school. So I have attended trainings around the world, but not formal schooling thereafter. My parents had to register me for school so that they would not be arrested. So they registered me in a home schooling program and had to provide a curriculum each year of what I was going to study. They learned to lie on my behalf because I would study so much more. But if they didn't list the prescribed subjects, they would get into trouble. And my dad, especially, as a university prof at that time, wouldn't be served by a charge of not educating their child.
If I might ask, where did you grow up?
In Canada, I was born and lived in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Then we moved to Alberta. officially that I might access more publicly available autism resources in this province. We, as a family, moved for that, but I never ended up using any of those resources because my family found the IAHP and found teachers like Mr. Bill Bartman and Dr. John Martini and so many others who were willing and so often inspired to have this little autistic kid, as I was, come learn from them. I was blessed to have the teachers I've had. I am blessed to have the teachers I've had. They just don't operate within four walls.
The Canadian healthcare system, in case, and we've talked about this on the podcast several times and on the blog, the minimums are set by the federal government, but the provinces administer the healthcare and the support system. So just like in the United States, we have found that Texas is different than Pennsylvania, where our girls were born and had their early childhood. And then we moved to Texas, which has different systems and supports. So the federal government sets minimums, but the states administer, in the case of the United States, the special education programs, the supports, some of the childhood healthcare services that are available. What you're saying is that your family decided to move to a province that was better known for having those supports. And unfortunately, just like the United States, there are provinces that are better equipped and better attuned to the special needs. But you also then said you didn't need those supports because your family reached out and there was a private organization.
Oh, Christopher, need yes, use no, because that government program, if you will, came with strings attached and came to with following a curriculum that I would let my dad tell you. What Amit is talking about is that I, at that time, spent a lot of my hospital work dealing with children, and I had watched a lot of kids with developmental delay and autism. And I had watched and knew how that movie was likely to end if we kept doing what the system was telling us to do. And I came up with the statement that if you don't like the movie, you change the script. And I knew that we had to change what it was that we were doing. So having moved our family to another province, there was something else that occurred. My parents were going to fill out something called a disability tax credit form. So it's a way of getting the government to allow expenses in Canada because it's not cheap. And when I found out that they were doing this, I had just learned how to use this card. And I wrote, "Life isn't worth living. I would rather die." My parents were not just distraught. They were very angry. They were doing so much for me. What did I mean that I would rather die? I wrote, if my mommy and daddy can't look after me, I would study and I would write ebooks and I would pay to look after myself. I don't want to be a charity case. I don't want the world to have sympathy on me. So my wife found a corner and cried, and not because of the lack of money, but that our kid was teaching us this lesson. And we did not apply for the disability tax credit. And, daddy worked extra, mommy worked extra to pay for here. And Amit went on to keep studying. Because we didn't do that form, we didn't have access to government funding for some of the special programs. And as I have written in our blogs, we took the less traveled road. In fact, I live my life very open. I have told so much about my personal struggle and how I have leveraged that to help my clients and my business itself, that we would love if your audience would go to chintanproject.com and read what I have written. Some with my dad, and join us. Join us to learn, to grow, and to change the world.
Disabilities are a stress on families. They are a stress on relationships. They are hard, not just on those of us with the differences, but on those around us. My wife, I know, can become emotionally exhausted through, my needs and those of my daughter. And I know that as a family, we find ourselves having to find time to recenter and refocus and find new energy. While Chintan is focused on businesses, how do you as a family refocus and find that inner peace and that acceptance of this life you have chosen?
I think one of the most empowering things that we do for each of us individually and as a family is to work hard. Yes, work. And yes, work very hard, that each of us gets to do what we love. I get to do this. My dad gets to do this advisory and consulting work too. And he keeps some of his medical practice that he might be fed to as a healer. My mom, whose parents live with us, had her mom have dementia, severe enough that she has just weeks ago moved into a care facility. And my mom is now inspired to build out services to help caregivers. I think the greatest thing that we do as a family that has helped us stay as a family is giving each of us space to shine our individual lights. Then that energizes us so that our family isn't in the way, but helping us on our way. Part of the reason, Christopher, that it is so hard on families is because it is perceived to be safer. It is perceived to be safer to explode on a spouse or a kid or a parent than at work. And yes, I can understand in some ways how one might say that. But that explosion also comes with a cost, doesn't it? And when it does, we take the time to address these issues head on. Importantly, people think that means long discussions with the other person. Sometimes it does. But so much of what we call relationship problems occur within our own heads. That's true for us as individuals. That's true for us as families, as business owners, as employers, employees, communities, nations. So much of what we think is a relationship issue is what's going on in our own heads. We drink our own medicine to leverage my dad. We understand there is stuff in our heads just like there is for any other human. We just know that that's okay too.
Amit, thank you for those words and thank you for those insights. The Chintan Project, your slogan that you have on the wall even behind you, transform your challenge into opportunity. You, on your website, you talk about adapting, finding purpose, focus. These are typically associated with self-improvement, but you apply these behavioral adjustments to business. So those interested can visit chintanproject.com. I'll have that in the show notes because it's CHINTAN project.com. You can read the blog. You can read the story of Amit and the Ramlall family. Dr. Ramlall, I appreciate your time. I appreciate, Amit, your time. Thank you for being on the podcast. You are now a young man. You are successful in business. What are your plans?
Over the next 5 to 10 years, I will have more acquisitions and a larger team. And I will have even more opportunity to do more of what I love in business. I may, over that time, have my own family, and my plan is, once my independent speech is more facile, to live independently. So that's some personal stuff and some business stuff.
I thank you both very much. The Ramlalls. This is Dr. Kumar Ramlall and Amit Chintan Ramlall. They do the Chintan Project, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your father. It has been an honor, Amit.
Thank you very much, Christopher.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for this opportunity.
And you just heard Amit's voice. You heard him say, "Thank you, Christopher." So again, I want people to understand that you are mouthing the words, that you are speaking, that your father is giving an extra voice to you. It is such an honor and a privilege to have spoken with you. I hope the audience takes this to heart, that you have a voice that needs to be heard and you have wisdom that you're willing to share.
Thank you.
If you liked this episode of the podcast, be sure to subscribe, leave a review if you liked it, and also follow the Autistic Me on social media. You've been listening to Perspectives on Neurodiversity. Thank you for listening.